Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to Copper Jacket TV. Hopefully everybody had a very Merry Christmas, and I hope you have a great New Year's as well. But if you're in California, the California government is absolutely trying to destroy your New Year's. So I'm sure you guys heard about the injunction that was placed against enforcement of portions of California's SB2, which is their brew and response bill. It's basically an anti-carry bill that makes it almost impossible to get a permit. And if you actually do get a permit, it's going to make it almost impossible to use it just about anywhere because everything is going to be a sensitive place. Well, an injunction was placed against enforcement of the sensitive places aspect of that new bill. Fantastic. This is something that's going to start January 1st of 2024, so we wanted to stop it immediately. Well, there's been some developments, and it looks like New Year's, we might still see all aspects of SB2 take full effect. So let's talk about what just happened. I mean, this is absolutely incredible. Got an order for the court on, well, Christmas Eve of all time. So let's talk about it. Okay, so let's go and talk about what's going on here. So there's actually two very similar cases that are challenging the sensitive location aspect of SB2. There is Peril v. Bonta and May v. Bonta. They're so similar that they're pretty much consolidated due to the fact that the outcome of one would affect the outcome of the other. For instance, if the law was completely overturned and eradicated under May v. Bonta, then there wouldn't be a need for Peril v. Bonta. Now, I've gotten some questions about why they're just going after the sensitive locations and not everything else, and that's because it's kind of like an emergency situation. I mean, we're talking about a start date here of January 1st, and SB2 is a massive bill. It had to do with where you're allowed to carry, how you can carry, with how you can get your training, who can do your training, background checks, fees, I mean, you name it. This was a massive bill, and so it's easier to isolate one particular thing that would have a huge negative effect on the Second Amendment and those people in California, isolate that and at least try and get that done before the start date, before the effective date, right? So that's kind of why they're going after the sensitive location. The rest of it will all be picked apart at a later time. I can pretty much guarantee you that. Now, we were all pretty excited last week when Judge Carney, a federal district court judge out of the state of California, placed an injunction against enforcement of a majority of the sensitive locations listed in SB2, which meant that people that currently had a permit in the state of California would be able to continue on with the status quo. Nothing would really change for them come January 1st. You have a permit that you can use, well, just about anywhere that you need, minus the certain restricted areas. You could still do so after January 1st. Now, unfortunately, those people who are seeking to get a new permit or renew their permit would see the rest of the changes that are listed in SB2, all the new restrictions, all the new burdens that SB2 provides. They would still have to go through that. However, at least with the knowledge that once they were done with that process and they completed it, they would be able to use their permit. So that injunction on the sensitive locations was huge, right? Well, we all know that California, I mean, they have their appeal button pretty much ready to go instantly, and that's what happened here. They hit the appeal button and they filed an appeal pretty much, you know, simultaneously. Now, the problem is that we are very close to the effective date of this new law. So January 1st, 2024, which is coming up in just days now, right? There's not really enough time to go through the appeals process to try and overturn that injunction by Judge Carney. So what did California do? Well, they decided that they were going to ask the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals for an emergency stay or an administrative stay, basically overturning the judge's injunction while the appeals process has time to go through. Now, if the Ninth Circuit grants this, and it looks like they're shooting for a timeline before January 1st, basically everything goes into effect on January 1st, including all of the new sensitive locations, making it pretty much impossible for anybody to carry. Whether you currently have a permit or you're going through the process and you finally get your permit, something like that, you wouldn't be able to carry anywhere. Now, we have some pretty important dates here. Obviously, they're looking for replies by tomorrow. That would be the 27th of December. And then the final reply on December 29th, which would set the court up for a December 30th, December 31st decision on whether or not to grant that administrative stay, blocking the injunction, allowing the law to take place. So very, very important days coming up here, and we'll see whether or not SB2 holds up or doesn't. Now, unfortunately, because we know the Ninth Circuit, because we saw the emergency stays that were granted in Duncan v. Bonta, and we've seen how the Ninth Circuit has acted lately, and we know that they have an agenda. It's an activist court. We know that it's really not going to take that much argument or that much sway in order for them to side with the state. They pretty much always side with the state. So in my personal opinion, from everything that I've seen in California and living there for, 40 something years, I can tell you that the Ninth Circuit is 99% going to grant this emergency administrative stay, and you're going to see SB2 go into full effect. But there's some absolutely ridiculous arguments that have been made here. For instance, in the state's argument, when they ask for this administrative stay, what they're saying is if the court allows this law to take effect, it is going to have massive health and public safety repercussions throughout the entire state. So they're going to see a huge problem if the court allows the sensitive locations to be enjoined come January 1st. But what they don't mention is that it's no different from what it is now, right? And so they're saying that if we allow things to be enjoined and we don't have the sensitive locations begin January 1st, then it's going to be like the Wild Wild West. But in reality, it's just maintaining the status quo moving forward, which would be no different than it is at this very moment right now as far as people who already have their permits. So what change would there actually be that would be so devastating to the state of California that they need this emergency injunction? Nothing. There would be no change at all. It's not like as if you didn't let something into the state, right? So something that is banned, that's currently outside of California, and if this new law goes into effect, they would suddenly flood the state, right? Like in Miller, like in Duncan, like they're so worried about, right? That these things would flood the state. That would be a change. I could see at least them arguing that that would be a big change, but allowing the status quo to continue and saying that that's some type of massive change that justifies an emergency stay to be placed on a federal district court judge's order, where the judge basically said that the plaintiffs have a likelihood of success on the merits here. Either way, California and the Ninth Circuit, they'll find a way. So again, we have some very important dates coming up, the 27th and the 29th. And then obviously after all the briefs are in by then the court just has a day or two to come up with its decision. And so for us, less than a week to find out whether or not SB2 will take full effect. Now, obviously, I'll keep you up to date as to anything that happens, so make sure you hit that little alarm bell to let you know when new videos come out. Subscribe if you're not subscribed yet, and we'll stay on top of this. But as soon as we know whether or not the stay was granted, I will jump in front of the camera as quickly as possible. So for now, I just want to thank you all very much for watching, and I really do appreciate all of the kind support that you guys give this channel and to me. And, just we'll try and have a Happy New Year. Anyway, thank you all again. Have a good one.